Leaders and experts say that the economic impact from the ongoing COVID-19 outbreak is surpassing that of the SARS epidemic that we saw in 2003. The rapid spread of this virus has hit many major industries as well, from tourism to auto manufacturing. Gareth Leather is senior economist for Emerging Asia at Capital Economics. He's talking to us now from London. Gareth, a major development of this outbreak has been this mass shutdown of factories that we've seen in China. How badly have supply chains in Asia been disrupted by this?
I think that's very much right, that initially at least the main hit that economies outside of China were taking was through their tourism sectors and this big fall in Chinese tourists that we've seen. But now that these factory shutdowns in China have been extended, the impact is also going to be felt across the region's industrial sectors. So sectors, for example, such as electronics and automotives and also the garment sector. And countries, most notably Korea, Vietnam and Malaysia, are likely to be hardest hit by this. So far there's been a couple of stories. So for example, Hyundai had to shut down production because of a shortage of parts. But the longer these shutdowns in China go on for, then the impact is likely to spread across the rest of the region as well.
Gareth, is there any chance that these supply chains can be redirected somehow in the medium term to mitigate the damage that we're seeing?
I think one of the lessons from the trade war was that supply chains across Asia are quite nimble, so that if a company is experiencing a shortage of one part, it should be able to find spare parts from elsewhere. The problem is, I think, is that China is such a big player in all this, that countries are so dependent on China that in many sectors it's going to be very, very, very difficult to do that. And so if you do see a prolonged period of factory shortages or factory shutdowns in China, the impact on the rest of the region is going to be quite severe.
Gareth, countries in this region are already counting the cost of what this outbreak is going to mean for economies. Aside from China, which economies here in Asia are going to take the biggest hit?
I think Hong Kong, obviously, because it's close dependence on China, especially through the tourism sector. Other ones include Vietnam because of its exposure to Chinese supply chains, and also Thailand because its dependence on Chinese tourists. I think the two countries that should probably escape relatively unscathed are Indonesia and India, because they're not really plugged into regional supply chains to the same extent as other countries are.
Gareth, this outbreak hasn't peaked. We haven't seen any sign of that. It's not slowing down. So many Asian economies are linked to business with China. Do you anticipate that things are going to get worse before they get better?
It really does just depend on how events in China pan out. I think until a couple of days ago, when they started reassessing how people, or whether people had the virus or not, there was some confidence that at least a number of new cases were starting to fall off. The past couple of days, I don't think people are quite so confident anymore. But I think one thing you can say with certainty is that if these factory shutdowns in China are prolonged, then the impact on the rest of the region is going to be really severe, probably much more so than SARS in 2003.
All right, Gareth, thank you very much for that perspective. We've been speaking there to Gareth Leather, a senior economist, speaking to us from London.